Hello and welcome to the Combat Chatters podcast. And this week we're going to be going over the previous UFC main card, the few fights which were discussed. It's a very good card overall though, as well as the upcoming UFC fight night. It's going to be between Spivak as well as also Cyril Gane, so it should be a really interesting one. This previous card though, on very early for us.
Yeah, started at 10 in the morning. Just before we get into this card to break down, obviously we haven't spoke since Sean O'Malley got that big win against Aljamain Sterling. I just wanted to touch on your viewpoint on it.
Okay, so this is a really interesting fight. Looking at Aljamain Sterling, I don't know if you noticed, but he looked a bit off. It didn't look like what I'd expect for Aljamain Sterling to look like. He didn't seem as necessarily as, I don't want to say active, or you could definitely say that. He didn't seem as clean in his striking. He didn't seem as accurate. He wasn't really throwing. I don't think he landed a strike to the head in the first round, or if he did, it might have been one which I didn't see. But overall, it was a very peculiar performance. It was a good performance from Sean O'Malley though. He did what he needed to do. You look at Sean, for his weight class, he hit so hard.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he's such a skinny dude. He doesn't look like he'll generate that sort of power.
It's one of those things. I think a lot of it comes down to, it must be to do with the build. He's relatively tall for that division.
5'11" apparently.
Well,
they definitely lie about that shit on TV.
Well, perhaps. But I think like if you look at him and then you look at someone like Holloway's 5'10", taller than a lot of those fighters, and look at what power he produces. Obviously, at this featherweight, they are quite powerful. But regardless, the fight itself, it was an interesting fight. The first round, it was very hard to call. A lot of leg strikes.
Yeah,
a
he
lot
was
of
going shin on shin, wasn't he? Aljamain Sterling, he was just booting the shins of O'Malley.
Quite literally, and O'Malley, threw a few strikes to the body as well through his front kicks. So it was an interesting first round, hard to call. I mean, you could call it a draw maybe.
Yeah, I think Aljo takes the first round just from the uppercuts against the cage at the end, but until then, nothing to really call. Obviously, the second round, the punch was beautiful. The pull counter, such a good shot.
So this counter, looking at Aljo, I mean, whether or not this is accurate, he could have potentially been injured, and I think that might have impacted it. The way he fought O'Malley, I didn't expect it. He was very much of a back foot the whole fight. O'Malley, I feel like, was mostly controlling it. But yeah, no, like you said, how do you think it would have went if they took it to the ground?
I mean, he did shoot a couple times, didn't he? But
nothing really came of it.
No, I just don't know. We just don't know. I mean, I would stick by my original prediction that I just think Sterling's just a terrible matchup for O'Malley, but you proved me wrong, you proved everyone wrong, and just this makes him a huge star in the UFC, and there's going to be some massive fights that he's going to be involved in. He could be fighting on the McGregor card in December. He's aiming for that one, him Chito Vera. So that's a banger fight.
I'll definitely send the finish.
Yeah.
So looked a bit early. I feel like Aljo was
still
there, and he was moving around as well. It looked like he was trying to get into a better position, but
he did eat some absolute bombs when he was on the ground. There was one overhand that landed, and I do think it was early as well. I do agree, but I understand why the ref did call it.
Yeah, it's one of those things really. You can understand why the ref would call it, and a lot of the time they're gonna understand when a fighter looks like they're about to be out, better than somebody who isn't a trained world-class referee. However, looking at it, I feel like it would have been interesting to see it go for a bit longer. Aljo didn't look like himself. He was covering up in a way in which you look at a lot of fighters prior to getting KO'd or TKO'd, they do cover up very defensively, very much in his shell. However, he looked quite active in his movement on the ground.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite early personally. That's just what I thought though. But overall, I'm really impressive performance from Sean, and something which I did not expect at all really. I thought that he didn't really deserve this shot at all.
No.
But
the UFC will be laughing. This is probably what they wanted. They seem to get what they want in these sort of moments. But we won't spend any more time talking about that because we have broke it down. But yeah, I think we both agree on just how much that makes Sean O'Malley a star now. That could be one of the biggest stars in the sport. I'd like to see the numbers that he sold pay-per-views to compare to what Izzy's going to sell next. Is it next weekend? I think not this coming one. The weekend after that. But anyway, let's get into breaking down this week's just gone card. Um, the first fight we spoke about is the Erin Blanchfield Talia Santos fight. Obviously, this was a big fight in the women's flyweight division. The winner could be next in line for a title shot, depending on how the fight co-main event goes this weekend. I thought it was a great fight. Talia Santos started off so strong. Erin Blanchfield could not get her head off the centre line. She was getting pinged with the big, massive right hands all the time. But she's scrappy, man, and she fought her way back into the fight. So, what did you think about Erin Blanchfield's performance?
So, like you said, first round, I think you look at Talia Santos, she was to an extent very dominant. It seemed very contagious at times, but the counter striking from Talia Santos, the moment she walked in towards that, like you said, that right hook, she was causing some serious damage. Her face was very cut out, Blanchfield's was.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really impressive first round come from Santos. And overall, she was really impressive all throughout. That first round was relatively contentious. It was very back and forth, and we saw a lot of good fighting on the feet, which is very, very nice to see. Now, second round comes along. I feel that Erin Blanchfield, she warmed up a little bit, you know, and you can see that she's definitely understanding the whole situation, what she has to do in to potentially fight her way back into this.
Yeah.
She's had a very intense first round. Talia Santos is doing very well. And something which really impressed me about Erin Blanchfield is that they're both very high class grapplers. Talia Santos, she's so good at jiu-jitsu.
Her takedown defense was insane.
Her takedown defense was insane. But looking at what they were doing in the clinches, Erin Blanchfield, like you said, is very scrappy, very tough. This is a fight which did so amazing in these close in pocket zones that when you first talk about Talia Santos, you have to be cautious, especially when it might result in going to the ground. Overall, this is a very, very contentious second round. My favourite part about it, though, 20 seconds, 30 seconds before the end, the way they're going at it.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like there could be a finish in this last 30 seconds because they both know it can go either way.
I think, obviously, Erin Blanchfield, I mean, if it was, she has some of the best cardio in the UFC. The way she pushes the pace. She went 0 for 14 takedowns, so she attempted 14, got 0 against Talia Santos. And I think that does take away from some of the domination sort of aura about Erin Blanchfield. Obviously, she came into this dominating everyone, and she is fighting one of the best girls in the division in Talia Santos, but now other women who are fighting around that level are going to look at that. If you got 5 rounds, you can kind of pick your shots better against Erin Blanchfield if she can't get you to the ground. Obviously, her striking needs work, but yeah, the pace just won it for her. Talia Santos at the end, it looked like she was drowning by being drowned by Erin Blanchfield, and the pace that she put on her was one for me the key takeaway of the fight.
This is the thing, though, like you said about the pace. That pace from the first round, the reason why Talia, one of the contributing reasons why she was doing so effectively on the feet, was because Blanchfield was putting her in positions in which she could counter strike like that. The striking was so clean, it was so accurate, and it was also very damaging as well.
Yeah.
Being struck like that does not leave you unscathed whatsoever. It's very, very powerful and intense. Now, if you can fight through that, and you recover, and then you can keep that up for another 2 rounds, at that point, there's a likelihood you're going to come out on top. And Blanchfield was, to say dominant, I wouldn't want to say dominant at all, because it was not a dominant fight.
No.
However, to say that, to put that pace on, and just that constant pressure, to be able to pressure like that for 15 minutes with 3 minutes rest in total, that truly is something, and it would be interesting to see one of these potentially get a title shot, Blanchfield.
Yeah, I also think maybe it wasn't a big enough performance to earn her a title shot. Obviously, if Marion Ferrero goes out and beats Rose this weekend, or if Rose beats Ferrero, I think either of them two could jump in the line. But I think the rightful contender should be Erin Blanchfield. She should be fighting for the title next. This is actually the first one I predict on the card, and I think me and Solly got it right. So that was this fight made up a little bit for our terrible picks on the Sean O'Malley card. But
well, this week's fight and last week's fight or should I say, yeah, no, last week's fight. Yeah, we are in this week now, aren't we? Do you think that the winner of this week's fight should maybe fight Blanchfield?
To be fair, Blanchfield probably didn't take no serious damage to cause it long-term injury. Um, I don't know how. Obviously, it depends how this fight goes because obviously Grasso and Shevchenko are booked for their rematch. I think it's coming soon. Main eventing on a fight night. So obviously, just seeing it all just depends on how the title picture plays out. Because say if Shevchenko wins the belt back in an easy form, she's ready to go again soon. Then maybe Erin Blanchfield's just ready, or the winner of this fight this weekend. You don't know what injuries they could get, so it all just depends on how it plays out. But I think if someone goes out this weekend and really puts on a good performance for Rowe or Rose, I think then they will probably jump in front of Blanchfield instead of fighting her. But yeah, maybe they could fight each other. That would make sense. I think this kind of the right time schedule that there should be another fight in between another title fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if Rose or Ferro just wait it out and get a title fight.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's all about feasibility of getting it organised and all
Hmm.
about. But on paper, yeah, no, I could see this potentially leading up to that.
Yeah. So next on the card we had actually a really entertaining fight. Alex Caceres and Giga Chikadze. Alex Caceres actually broke his forearm in the first round, so considering how competitive the fight was after that, just hats off to him. He's really improved in his career. But it was good to see Giga Chikadze back. Maybe not as a dominant performance as he thought he was going to have, but he did enough to get the job done and showed off his powerful kickboxing pedigree. How impressed were you with him, or do you did you think the time off affected him?
So it's one of those things. Time off is going to affect a lot of fighters, and I feel like it did affect Giga to an extent. I feel like though with Giga, he's not somebody who necessarily charges at you. He's not a necessarily a super high paced pressing fighter.
He's like one shot, but power, and he.
And that's the thing. He's very very technical. Everything he throws, his kicks in particular, both him and Caceres' kicks
Mm,
were both very very high level. And with Shikadze, like you said, one shot on power, he's taking those shots, he's picking those shots well, and he's making sure that he's landing them accurately. You look at Caceres on the other hand, Caceres is still very much accurate, but he's very bouncy.
mm,
And
does a lot.
his performances, if you look at his performance of the night bonuses,
Yeah, he's
it's
got a lot.
it's very, very impressive. Caceres is somebody you can't underestimate.
Mm,
And he is somebody which I feel like might get overlooked at times,
definitely.
which you can't do because Caceres is a very high level fighter. Chikadze's performance was very, very impressive. I thought he looked really, really good. My favourite thing was the kick at the end. Was it
Oh, the Rolling
the
Thunder.
rolling thunder?
Yeah,
That was
he
awesome.
actually
Honestly.
hit, kind of landed it too, didn't he?
And to do that is pretty impressive. You know, it kind of shows your technical ability, your technique, because it's not going to be easy to throw something like that, let alone land it.
Mm.
And maybe if you did it first round, you know. But no, but yeah. So I thought Giga looked really, really impressive. They both looked really good, and it's a really contentious fight as well. It was nice because it was very technical,
Yeah,
very, very technical, and quite high paced as well.
yeah. There was a lot of stuff happened in the fight. No one really hurt throughout the fight. Just it was just a good scrap to watch, and I'm happy Giga's back now. Alex Caceres, he doesn't drop too far down in anyone's estimations, considering how good everyone thought Giga was before that Calvin Kattar fight. Obviously he's back in the division now after 18 months off. He probably get a decent fight, maybe like I don't know who he could find next, but get a decent fight again next, maybe like a Josh Emmett or someone like that. Yeah, Rodriguez, someone coming off a loss, but yeah, great performance from Giga. Just really impressed with how he fought.
It was really good, especially considering the time it had off, and it was really exciting as well. It's just an exciting fight to watch.
Mm,
It was when you watch a fight like that, you think this is a fun fight,
yeah, definitely.
and that's what it's all about, really. I think Caceres might have something going into it that he just wants to have fun or
Why
put in a
didn't he shoot
performance.
takedowns? I really don't get why people aren't trying to take Giga down.
Well, this is the thing. Me, it's. I suppose if you're looking at it like from a perspective of these fighters looking to have fun, then shooting for takedowns might not be the best way to do it.
Mm,
Alex Sarah's when you have that many performances of night bonuses, you're not fighting in a way in which could be considered boring.
Yeah.
And looking at the feet, it was almost very exhibitionist
Yeah,
in the
kind
way
of.
it was.
Yeah.
It didn't look too don't want to say nasty because it's all pretty nasty, but it didn't look too full out. You know what I mean?
No.
It was very much they were having fun, they were throwing kicks, and I think Giga understood that as well. Otherwise, why else are you throwing a rolling thunder 10 seconds towards the
Yeah, I
end? Like
mean, they were just there
that's
to put on a show, weren't they?
exactly, that's not your knockout strike, is it? Like,
No.
come on, like.
No.
Overall, really good performance though. Impressed.
Yeah, getting on to the next fight, probably not the most entertaining fight of the card, but just filled with the what like just watching it, like just the mixed emotions. I'm a big fan of Anthony Smith, but first round he looked very good. Obviously finishing Ryan Spann last time in like about a minute. You can't really go out on top of that performance, but he started the first round strong. He looked to address the problems he's had with leg kicks by just destroying Ryan Spann's legs himself. He didn't want to give him a chance to really settle in and have that sort of exchange. Yeah, Anthony Smith started strong. Obviously, got hit with the big, I think, left hook. Probably done some damage to his orbital bone. And we haven't seen a podcast or an update from Anthony Smith since this fight. But I've watched the fight back. I do think it was a lot closer. I don't. At the time, I kind of thought it was a robbery, but at the same time, you do so much damage to a guy in the second round and then come out in the third and pretty much for nothing. Like have a little friendly sparring match in the third round. And Anthony Smith, he landed way more strikes, 91 to 59. The first round he clearly won. And in my opinion, you can probably give him the third round. So the decision's close, but I'm not mad at it. What did you think about it?
So it's one of these things. When you watch it, it's very easy to look at it and think robbery because it did look, especially when you see something like an eye injury like that, and you see somebody cover up as much as they did,
Yeah.
which is in complete fairness what you have to do if you don't want to have the fight stopped. Because at that point, I imagine he can't see anything out of his eye, and he's just protecting it as much as he possibly can. You can say that when the first and second round look relatively close-ish to the naked eye, that it could potentially be a robbery. With this, so with Spann, something with Spann is that he doesn't really look active enough in
No,
what he does. He's a bit too.
it confused me.
He doesn't really throw enough, and I think personally, when somebody's covering up like that, at that point you have to really go for it. He's a dangerous opponent, Anthony Smith, and he's not someone you want to get caught by. But at that point, you need to start applying a little bit more pressure. And when that third round comes, and he's very visibly,
Vulnerable.
well, yeah, very much so, then you have to really go for it. It's a really good thing that the fight didn't stop.
Yeah.
Because looking at it, it looked very, very severe.
Yeah, it did. It was bad, wasn't it? The swelling too.
But it's one of those things, I suppose, when you see out your eye and when you want to fight on, they're not always going to stop you.
Yeah.
Whether that's the right thing or not, he's, how old is he now? 36?
Oh, God, yeah, he's got maybe even like, yeah, he's 30.
I think he's 36. I know
He's an old man, I should say that.
How many fights out as well? Like 52?
Yeah,
53?
yeah, he's had, I think it's 55 professional MMA fights.
55.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that is so many more than I thought. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of his performance?
I mean, obviously, I think Brian Spann, what might have played into his performance was maybe the mental block. That's why I didn't go for it. But once he gave Anthony Smith time to recover, Smith was just happy fighting at that pace in the third round, and you could tell. Obviously, Smith is known for like how tough he is, but though you could tell at points it kind of looked like he wasn't really wanting to be in that fight anymore. And I think Spann could have took opportunities, but Smith just shown his toughness. Like he said afterwards, he's an older man. He's got a family. He's not in his prime anymore. But to go out there and beat such a physical specimen like Ryan Spann at this point in his career, even though he did do it about a year ago and way more impressive fashion, like it just shows how good he is still, and he's not ready to stop fighting yet, and he's got a few more in him. Probably not another title run. Let's be real, he doesn't look like the old Anthony Smith, but you can't hate on his performance when he goes out and beats a young guy like Ryan Spann.
It's one of these things. You look at Anthony Smith. He's definitely towards the last stage of his career. 55 fights. He's been fighting since 2008.
Yeah.
In that capacity anyway, and it's immense really. I mean, and to be fair, he is a bit of he's a bit of an icon in the
Mm.
sport. There's a few of them, but he's definitely up there. He's done well from a longevity perspective to stay in it as long as he has. In his post-fight conference, when they ask about calling someone out, and he said he was going with his family,
Yeah.
I think that as well almost shows
Where he's at.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not as if he's ready to pack it in. He would have taken the gloves off, I imagine, if he was.
Yeah.
But he's definitely at a stage where he's like you said, he's not prime Anthony Smith.
Mm.
He's not gonna be going on a title run. I could be very wrong.
In his head, he's going to try.
Try, but I also don't think he is though. I think he's just. I think
think
he's
he's
just
content.
fighting out, and he's
Yeah.
content where he is, and he's fighting a good level of opponent.
Yeah, I mean, he's like still ranked number 8, I think. So
Yeah. Ranked number 8, it's a comfortable position to be in if you're being given good matchups and you're not being thrown against these
like he
top
has.
heavyweights. Yeah. It's important to just remember to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it if you're gonna go that long,
Yeah.
because after a certain point, you can just pack it in.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, impressive performance.
Do you think Ryan Spann won the fight?
It's really hard. It looked like it at the time. However, looking at the stats are so favourable
Yeah.
towards Anthony Smith. You wouldn't be able to give it if perhaps I just wasn't looking at the right things. But when you take into account like the takedowns, the significant strikes where he had like 30 or so more than him,
Yeah.
you can't really give Ryan Spann a fight, and he just wasn't active enough. I think a lot of it was how the damage makes the fight look like it's going.
Definitely. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the main event. We'll go over this one a little bit quicker because we got obviously next week's card to talk about too. But we should designate some sort of maybe a video one day or something just to the legendary career of Korean Zombie. And he really went out. He died on what's the saying? Died on his sword or something like that.
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure.
But either way, he came out, and swung like a maniac. He looked impressive early on, both sort of trading. I think he kind of hurt Max at one point, which you don't see much. But what did you think of the fight?
So the fight was really impressive. I did not expect Zombie to be as aggressive as he was.
No.
Even from the get-go, we're not talking about the finish, prior to him getting finished. I did not expect him to be as aggressive as it was. I think that this fight there was a lot on the line for both fighters. Obviously, there's the terrible natural disasters, which have happened. Well, not natural disasters, but there are the terrible
Not
events.
so natural disasters.
Natural disasters. Just events, regardless, which have gone on in Hawaii, which are obviously having a very big impact on Max Holloway. It's a lot of what he's fighting for. And you look at Korean Zombie, he's fighting in Singapore. This is probably the closest to home he probably ever really fights. Obviously they're going to be holding events in Asia, but it's not too common. We're seeing them often in other parts of the world. And he's at that stage in his career now where he's been fighting for years. He is an icon. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He has made the UFC what it is.
Well, helped. Maybe UFC.
Well, it's all a contribution, though. You know what I mean?
fair,
But he's had a bigger contribution than
a lot.
90% of fighters.
The Asian what am I trying to say?
Population.
Yeah, the Asian population obviously follows their fighters like him, and he's brought so much fans to the sport.
Well, this is the thing. What he's done in the UFC, he's one of the best Asian mixed martial artists of all time, one of the best Korean martial artists of all time. It's like, our equivalent of like Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
He is a national icon. He's a national hero. He's like Beckham over there. And no, but I'm being dead serious.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, to be fair.
And to think that he did what he did, fighting for the military. Obviously, they have mandatory enlistment over there.
Missed a lot of his prime because of that too.
But to do that and come back and do what he did, he literally came back almost from the dead, really.
Yeah.
From not being about at all. And he just tore up, and he is such a diverse fighter. His jiu-jitsu, top level, on the feet, talking about knockout power. He's not a massive guy. He's quite bulky, in fairness. Yeah. He is quite bulky, but not on the general stature perspective. He's done amazing, and the chant as well, walking out.
Oh god, man, that was one of the most emotional retirements I've ever watched because that crowd was insane. I love the Asia crowds.
It's the thing though in Singapore, and this is probably the best place for him to retire. The only better place would be South Korea.
Yeah.
But overall, the fight itself, I think they both look really good. And like you said, Holloway, he did look like he got hurt. A
Yeah.
little bit rocked. He's not somebody who's ever been dropped,
Mm.
which is very impressive. Whether he will or not, maybe at some point, you think he can't do that for much longer.
No.
He's only 30 as well, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Another 7 years of just staying on his feet. But overall, the way it started, it was I did not expect Zombie to come out the way he did.
No.
It was
In that third round, Jesus, he came out. I think he threw like 16 strikes, which 4 landed in the space of like 20 seconds or something like that. It was crazy, but yeah, coming out with that aggression, you could tell he was in his head. It was right there, right then. Kid will be killed, and Max obviously slipped and landed a beautiful overhand and killed the zombie. So yeah, obviously retiring afterwards. Great career. I'm just happy to see it. Like we've sat there and watched a lot of his fights since he's come back, and yeah, he's just put on a legendary career for the fans.
did have a headshot. But
Yeah.
no, so looking at his retirement speech as well, like it was so nice, saying that he can't see himself going for a title, and it was just emotional, honestly, and the way he threw his gloves into the crowd as well,
Mm,
like that's so cool to think that some random individual in this crowd in Singapore has now got
Chris
Korean Zombies
gloves.
gloves,
Yeah.
his retirement gloves as well.
God, lucky fan. I wonder if they'll sell them or keep them.
Well, you'd hope keep him, but
I think I'd sell them.
well,
Just
think
need
maybe-
money.
nah, baby, he gave quite a bit, man, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. They
yeah.
would.
Overall, really impressive performance.
Yeah. Well, getting on, we're just going to break down the top 3 fights of next week's card. Obviously, massive main event and co-main event. A guy we're both big fans of in Benoit Saint Denis as well, fighting Thiago Moises, who just a veteran of the sport at this point. The first fight we're going to get into is Saint Denis versus Thiago Moises. I think it's great matchmaking. I think Benoit seems like a lot bigger dude. I don't know if he's fought at welterweight before. I know he's fought at 165, a catch weight, but yeah, how do you think this stylistic matchup plays out?
So stylistically, it's very interesting. Saint Denis Boy, he's very Saint Denis Boy. What am I saying?
Just Saint Denis, innit?
Yeah, Saint Denis, Saint Denis. I'm thinking of his first name. I've got that mixed up for some reason. Don't know why.
So,
But looking at how he fights, he gets a lot of submissions
yeah.
and he gets a lot of finishes, and he's a very angry, big, tough opponent. He's quite aggressive. He's very much in your space. He charges at you, and he does cause some serious damage. Thiago Moises, he's stylistically, he's a little bit different. You look at Thiago Moises, he's very much focused on the kickboxing. He's very active, but he's very good at distance management, and he's also very good at throwing lots of accurate, clean strikes. His kicks, very, very high level. He has some very high level leg kicks. He's very, very good at keeping them at bay, and he fights at a range, which I think is very beneficial. I think that's going to be really beneficial against Saint Denis. I really do. I think that Saint Denis is not somebody you want to have take you down, although I don't know how easy it would be to take down.
I mean, Moises is obviously a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt. I think Saint Denis, everyone he's fought, he has tried to take down at some point. I think maybe if he wobbles Moises, he might go for the takedowns, but I think, like you said, he's just going to be look to be a bulldozer in this fight.
So with Saint Denis, I feel like when he does strike from the ground, or when he does try to submit, a lot of the time he's doing it in a very dominant, top-heavy position, and he's also very clever. If you look at how he fights, he had a fight recently. It wasn't his most recent fight. It was the one prior to it. I'm remembering his name off the top of my head.
Was it the one he lost?
It wasn't one he lost. No, it was one he won. He won it by, I believe, finish. I know that he came in second round in.
All right.
Miranda.
Yeah.
So Gabriel Miranda, he's on the floor. He's in his back. He's trying to get him in his guard. But you watch how he's striking him. He's landing lots of really significant ground strikes, but he's stepping up and going back in, stepping up and going back in. He knows not to get caught in my trap, and this is something which requires a relatively high fight IQ to not just jump in there, because if you jump in there, there are lots of fighters who are very comfortable in their back, and they know that if they're in their back and you're in their guard, for them, it's a really high opportunity. It might not seem like a dominant position. However, they can do a lot from that position. Saint Denis is somebody who's very, very good at ensuring that he doesn't put himself in a position of risk. He's very aggressive, but at the same time, he backs up when required. Thiago Moises, he's very good at distance management. I think the way he's going to win this, if he were to win this, that is going to be to keep it on the feet and keep it at range, and I think decision. But that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I've actually got a bit of a different take than you. I think he probably is the better, cleaner striker than Saint Denis, but I just think Saint Denis, like other points in their career, Moises hasn't fought loads, but he's fought a lot of high level competition. And to be fair to him, the only people he's lost to are those high level competition. But Benoit Saint Denis is just one of those guys who's built different. He's like in the French military, like I was reading about some of the treatment he went through in his training. Just crazy how tough the guy is, and you saw that in the Aleski Dos Santos fight, where everyone knows how good Dos Santos is. I think he's got a win over Sean Strickland and a lot of other good fighters. And man, the ref in that fight was letting Saint Denis live. The commentary was going crazy, but the toughness he showed in that, I think someone like Moises is going to really struggle with just the pure physicality and the toughness that Saint Denis brings. And for that, I'm going to go second round TKO. I think Denis will just really put on the pressure. I don't know if he's actually as good as a technical fighter as Moises, but I just think he's just going to really just put the pace on him.
I think it's one of these things. He is very much a unit, and Thiago Moises, I don't feel like he is always able to do well against these fighters who are very much very dominant. He has had some really big fights against some of these very high level fighters. A lot of these were when they were coming up. However, he's fought the likes of Dariush, Bobby Green, Makhachev.
I think Michael Johnson too.
Michael Johnson, yeah, but I think that was between I think that was between either Makhachev and Bobby Green, or Dariush and Bobby Green. It was one of the two. But overall, he has just fought high level opponents time after time after time, and a lot of these fights in which he tends to not come out on top of, although they are very challenging fighters, these are fighters who are applying the pressure and are on him. And this is where I think he might struggle. And I would say second round TKO, I could agree with that. I'm going to spin out though. Decision Moises.
Yeah. I mean, I do think there's some weight in it that Moises doesn't really lose to the caliber of fighter that Saint Denis is. No disrespect on Saint Denis' path, but yeah, I think it's an interesting fight. But yeah, I think we're going to disagree on this one. I think Saint Denis is just going to be a bit too much for Thiago Moises.
I do feel like yours is more accurate. However, I just want to I want to see the other outcome. I want to see it be a different fight.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I could see it going either way. It's a very close fight. But yeah, getting on to the co-main event, a massive fight here. Obviously, Rose Namajunas not performing how anyone wanted in her last fight, but moving up to 125 now, fighting Marion Ferrero, who, in my opinion, is one of the bigger girls at 125. She spoke about how she kind of just wants that fear. She's kind of getting bored. She wants that fear put back into her MMA career. So going off her mindset's right for this one. She usually performs better when she's the underdog, which she is. How much respect do you give Rose for taking this challenge on? And do you think it's very likely that she can actually get past Manon Ferrero?
So Manon Ferrero, like you said, she's one of the bigger fighters in my division. She is quite massive. I had to look at her height because I thought that she looked quite tall. She's 2 inches taller than Rose, which
Rose
in fairness,
5'7", I think.
5. Yeah, Rose is 5'7". I think I might be 3, or she's like 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah, I think she's 5'9".
So I think she just looks bigger though because she is just a big individual. She's very, very bulky. It's a hard one for Rose because Ferrero is such a good kickboxer. The technique there, you look at Rose. Rose isn't a big fighter by any degree. She's very bouncy. She's very active, but she is not a big fighter whatsoever. She's very small.
She's powerful though.
Powerful, but size-wise, she's not big at all. And with Ferrero, the way she throws kicks, like if you are somebody bouncing around, bouncing towards you, and you can throw kicks like that, it it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. They're both good at wrestling. Thoreau is very tough in the clinch, and I think that height's going to make a difference. I know that sounds bizarre, but I think that with the wrestling, I can't see Rose being able to take her down,
No, I don't think
and
so.
I could see Thoreau potentially shooting for a takedown because she does do that. She's got a bit of everything really, actually.
She's a black belt in judo as well, so that's like you said. She's good in the clinch. You see a lot of the judo skills come into play there.
Well, the clinch is what I think a lot of this fight could take place in.
Mm.
You look at how aggressive Rose is, presuming Rose decides to fight this very
Yeah.
aggressively, or the other way around. It could be either way. Looking at it in the clinch, I think that Thoreau's fairly dominant. I could see her potentially taking it to the ground. How Rose does on the ground, she's not bad on the ground, but it's not where she's going to be strongest.
Do you think she? I think she's got better BJJ than Furrow though.
See, it's one of those things though. I also thought that though about Blanchfield and Santos. I thought Santos had way better jiu-jitsu. Both very high level performance, but whether or not that'll come to be, I mean, especially when it comes down to the size difference,
Yeah.
because you're not just obviously you're gonna be you're not gonna be the same size because you've cut for a start, so you're not gonna be the same size. You're gonna be massive in comparison. But looking at just the general practicality of it on the ground, it's hard. It's a very hard one for Rose. Even if the BJJ is there, Rose going to be very, very dominant, and the way she's going to be striking on the ground, if she does go for a takedown, she's in that dominant position. I think that could cause a lot of issues. I think a lot is going to take place in a clinch though.
Yeah, I can see that. Furrow really trying to put Rose against the fence and just trying to bully her. I think that's quite a good call.
I do also think though that Rose is going to be coming forward quite a lot.
Yeah,
I think
so
that could result in a clinch.
Yeah, I also think Furrow's a bit like stiff in her stance. Obviously, we watched probably her hardest fight against Caitlin Chookagian last time out, and if Chookagian's catching you with her in and out footwork, I think there is going to be points where Rose is really tagging Furrow up in this fight, and I'll jump into my prediction. Now you have mentioned the clinch, I actually for some reason didn't really think about that when I was thinking about this fight. So that has kind of swayed me to go with a Furrow decision. A lot of the fight playing there, but I think I'm going to stick to how I originally thought this fight was going to play out. I think Rose is going to be giving her a lot of problems. There's going to be a few scrambles on the ground. I think Furrow will struggle a bit to keep Rose down. I think Rose may shoot takedowns because Furrow's power, she gets hit with some of those body kicks. You just automatically want to shoot a takedown, don't you? But I think Rose is going to be doing well using in-out footwork. And it really pains me to say because Rose is one of my favourite fighters, but I think she's going to get caught coming in. I think it'll be kind of like the Jessica Andrade rematch where she kind of had to fight. She was active and looked very good, but you have to fight scared just because of the power aspect. And I think I'm going to go for Rose third round TKO. I think she's going to wear Rose down and catch her coming in. That's how I see it going.
So I was going to go Thoreau. I wasn't going to go TKO or KO because I think that Rose is just so tough. I think it is. I don't think she's going to be able to lay her out. Not that she hasn't got the power to do so. She most certainly does. I think though with this, like you said, a lot of in and out footwork. I think Rose is going to be doing well with Thoreau because, like you say, she's not the most. She's not the most. I don't want to say it's. I don't know what the word is. I was going to say mobile, but that's
Elusive.
Not right at all.
Elusive, the right
So
word.
she's stiffish.
Yeah, she's kind of stiff.
She's not. I don't think she's super stiff, to be fair. And I think that she got some good footwork. But if you look at Rose, her footwork and the way she bounces in and out, you're landing a lot of strikes that way just from not getting caught. I think what's most likely going to happen is that Rose is going to get caught by a big kick coming in or a big strike, back against the fence, clinch. And I think that the reason I'm thinking decision is I think she's just going to be racking up points in that clinch. I think, elbows, all sorts of strikes, knees, maybe a takedown, bit ground control. That's how I see it going.
I just want to put it out there. There's nothing I want more than Rose to win this fight.
Real Rose fan, aren't you?
Yeah, God, man, it'd just be such a good feat if she could move up the weight class and beat probably the worst stylistic matchup for her in that. I think Shevchenko Rose on paper might be a better matchup than Rose for I'm not saying I think she beats Shevchenko because I don't, but just on paper the stylistic matchup, Furrow just seems like such a unit in there.
Well, that's the thing. It's not an easy first fight to go up to, but I also think that who else are you going to put Rose against other
Yeah.
than a top fighter?
Her
You
Blanchfield would
can't
have been a
disrespect him.
banger.
It would have been, but I feel like for Blanchfield now that she's done what she's done, maybe putting her against somebody who's just coming up.
Yeah.
I think you got to give her someone who's a bit more proven in that
I
division,
think Ferro
just
deserved a
that
big
division.
name too.
Well, yeah,
In
exactly.
France as well. Home. We haven't even spoke about that. Ferro fighting obviously in France. Probably the first time she fought there. How she's going to deal with the crowd, if she'll thrive like Cyril Gane did last time, or will it get to her mentally maybe? We're not. I mean, we just don't know, do we?
No, not at all. I mean, UFC in France as well is always great.
Yeah, the last event was amazing, I thought.
It's so interesting to see, like, because when I fought with France, obviously we have the Cyril Gans and all that, but I didn't know about a lot of these French fighters
Mm,
until we saw UFC in
yeah,
France,
yeah,
and
last
it
year.
turns out that they're all incredibly high level,
Yeah,
and they're all top fighters, and they all have the potential to be. I mean, France could potentially be one of the top MMA fighter producing countries,
the
in Europe.
kickboxers they produce in France. I mean, MMA's only just become legal in like 2019, I think, in France,
Hmm.
or maybe even a bit later. So they've had great kickboxers for years, but now we're getting some of those MMA fighters, and that's just going to continue.
It's interesting though that you got over in the east, you got I say the Eastern Europe, Northeastern Europe, we got those wrestlers,
Those
and then in the
Pakistanis.
well, yeah, and then in the west we have those those Muay Thai fighters and
Mm,
kickboxers, the Aspinalls and the Cyril Gans, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
nuts, actually nuts.
I just love different countries, how different their styles is, and how many elite fighters each country are producing now. We're just getting to see true MMA. It's amazing how far MMA's come in that sense.
I mean, all we need to do now is start producing jiu-jitsu fighters and we're sorted.
Yeah, we had like Tom Breeze and that, but none of them worked in the UFC.
Nah, it often doesn't matter, does it?
No.
Just plain jiu-jitsu. Well, no, it's more than just plain jiu-jitsu, but primarily
Mm.
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, well, anyway, getting into this week's main event, obviously a great one here. Cyril Gane looking to bounce back and show maybe he has improved on his wrestling, probably fighting, apart from like John Jones and those top ranked fighters like Tom Aspinall, probably fighting the next best wrestler in that division. We saw what Spivak's done to people like Taito Avasa and Derek Lewis. So, how do you think this fight plays out? Do you think Gane's takedown defense would have improved enough to get him the W here?
So you'd like to think so. Something which is looking at him fight John Jones. John Jones's takedown, his wrestling is very high level, and so is Spivak. But I feel like they're both very different in the way in which they will typically shoot for a takedown. Spivak's somebody who'll kind of run towards you, grab you in a clinch, and just slam you.
Yeah.
John Jones, his takedown was incredibly technical. The way he
Mm.
took the back, he kind of just swooped in really,
Yeah.
and it's very hard to defend a takedown like that.
Mm.
It's a very high level takedown. You look at Spivak's kind of the way he fights is that I think it might be Derek Lewis,
Yeah.
where he just picks them up,
Yeah.
slams them, picks them up,
Someone
slams
like
them.
Derek Lewis doing that to them as well just shows Spivak's strength. The polar bear, I think they call him for
Yeah,
a
that is his
reason.
name, the
Yeah,
polar
yeah.
bear. Yeah, because he just mauls you, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, with Spivak, he is very much somebody who will kind of just he's almost like your traditional idea of ragdolling, ain't he, really?
Yeah, definitely.
Which is interesting, really, because in the UFC we see so much really high level technical wrestling, and this is high level technical wrestling,
It's different.
but it's different. It's very much it's almost like a form of bullying, really.
Yeah. Big brother and them.
Yeah, literally, and we're not seeing these these double legs we're seeing from these Dagestani fighters where they shoot and you just don't see it coming. Like you're like, well, hang on a second, where did that
Yeah.
come from? I didn't see you do anything at all,
Like
really.
Shemaev sort of style.
Oh, it literally, and it's not like this bulldoggy Ben Askren. It's more like I'm gonna grab hold of you, I'm gonna pick you up, and I'm gonna slam you.
It's a
And if
bit
you don't want to stay down, I'm gonna do it again.
It's a bit like Khabib and sort of has that same style where he wasn't shooting double legs. He was putting people against the fence, dragging you down, you'll get back up, dragging you back down, and just keeping you there the whole time. And Spivak looks to do the same, but the difference is he can throw 280-pound men through the air like they weigh nothing.
And that's the thing with Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's his physique, his build overall is very, very impressive, and he's big tall guy. You know, you look at like you said about Derek Lewis. To be able to pick someone like Derek Lewis up, Derek Lewis is behemoth of a man,
Cuts weight to get to heavyweight.
which is nuts, really. You know, and he's not fighting at heavyweight. He's cut. He's rehydrated on on coke and KFC. But looking at
Thought you were talking about a different type of coke there.
nah,
Derek
but
Lewis, man.
nah. So but yeah, looking at Spivak, that level of strength is so high. I think with Cyril Gane, I think that this type of wrestling might be beneficial for Cyril Gane
Yeah.
because this kind of clinch work, if there's something he's going to be a lot better with, it's going to be fighting in the clinch. Obviously, it's not fighting in the clinch, it's this kind of clinch type of wrestling. It's not always clinch type of wrestling either. A lot of the time, it's grabby wrestling, or a lot of the time, there are also single legs and double legs as well. If he does try and wrestle from a clinch, this is going to be beneficial to the defense of it. This is going to be a lot easier for him to cope with, and you're going to think that he's worked on his defense as well, because it's just going to be such a hole otherwise. Cyril Gane's striking is so technical as well. If he's able to land strikes in the clinch, he's going to be causing damage.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another thing that we have to think about as well is Spivak. Obviously, one thing with Cyril Gane, the takedowns that he's going to be looking for, you got to get Cyril Gane against the fence first. His footwork for heavyweight, it's just, he's so elite and he moves so quick. And we saw Spivak got finished by Tom Aspinall in the first round because of that speed factor. And I think that's the same thing going to be there for Spivak. It's a very hard task for him to try and get around that hurdle. I think that he definitely has the skills to win this fight. Like, I wouldn't be confident in either of my picks in this fight because obviously Cyril Gane has shown deficiencies in his grappling and Spivak just looks like a beast right now. But what's your final prediction? How do you think it's going to go?
So it's a really, really hard one to call. It's going to be championship rounds.
5-round fight.
Which I know they have to be championship rounds. It's the main event, but I also do think that putting these heavyweights in 5 rounds, it's never going to last 5 rounds.
No.
It's very unlikely. I think that with this fight, there's going to be a finish, no matter what. Like there's no way this is going to 25 minutes. I want Cyril Gane to win. I really do. But I think that unless his footwork is fast enough or he's able to finish him, I think Spivak's going to do him. I really do.
Gonna do it.
He's going to do him. I mean, the way he fights, you could call it that. But I think that with Spivak, how he does, how aggressive he is, and how persistent he is as well. He is constantly looking to get you down. He is constantly looking to finish you. If he can break through Cyril Gane, if he can get by the footwork, because Cyril Gane's a hard person to get really super close to,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
I mean, he's almost impossible to punch, so it can't be easy grabbing his hips.
Exactly, and you've got quite a few inches when you throw a punch. But I think that if he's able to get through to him, which I think he will be able to, I'd say second round finish. I think he'd be able to last round.
Do you think he's gonna sub him? Sub or ground and pound?
I think ground and pound, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Because I think that although the grappling deficiencies are there, I also think that with him on the ground, if you're in a dominant position, you just want to finish him because you don't want him getting back up if you're in that position. I also do think though, if Cyril Gane does keep him with feet, he could seriously piece him up.
Yeah.
And he could finish him very comfortably. And I think that this could potentially be first round if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think it could also be slightly longer, but I think it could be like third round.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he
with
could slug it out as well, but it would be interesting. I think that it's either going to stay on the feet and go one way or go on the ground and go the other way. I'm going to go Spivak though, just because I believe that he's tough enough to get through. And not to say that Cyril Gane's not tough enough, but that level of persistence, you're not going to be able to do much in regards to stopping it. Like I said, it could go the other way around. Thomas Bignol, for
I
example.
think that was a short notice fight, and no one really knew how Tom was at that point. So obviously Spivak's come a long way since that fight. And I have been kind of going with Gane in my head, but I actually think I'm going to agree with you. I think first round, I think he's going to hurt Spivak, probably maybe get taken down towards the end. and then Spivak's going to come out. But I think he might sub him. I think maybe I can see like an arm triangle or something.
Oh,
But
okay.
also, Gunn can win this fight on the feet at any time, and I'm not here claiming that I know what I'm on about with this fight. If Gunn keeps it standing, it goes one way. If Spivak takes it down, it goes the other. I just feel more safe with Spivak because Gunn, up until recently, never really fought wrestlers in his whole career. The whole way up to the heavyweight division, you don't really fight wrestlers until you get into the higher sort of rank, like you saw in Ngannou. But what he was doing until he fought Stipe the first time is kind of like the same situation. Spivak, he just looks so strong. So I think it's the safer bet going with Spivak.
It's
I agree with you.
it's so interesting though because stylistically there are a couple of fights in this card which well, there's more than a couple of fights in this card, which they're just so contrary to each other. They contrast so much. They're so different, and it is really interesting. But overall, I think it's gonna be a really good card, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be on early as well.
Yeah, I think main card starts at 8 p.m. in the UK.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah. I'm just looking if there's any big news out at the moment. It's all a lot on news. Obviously, one thing I will bring up, we'll just quickly touch on it. Henry Cejudo leaked DMs of it was Aljamain Sterling asking for advice, and Henry Cejudo basically just leaked it, and he predicted exactly what Sean O'Malley was going to do. And Aljamain's not happy. He called him a clout chaser. Wasn't happy with the leaked DMs. Um, I think that just touches on Henry Cejudo's character, really, doesn't it?
It's one of those things. There's no need for it. At the
No.
end of the day, they're not fighting each other.
Mm.
They're not major rivals you'd imagine.
Well, they fought and won one, so you kind of put that behind you at that point, don't you?
Well, that's the thing though. Like you're 1-1. You've fought. You've had your. You've done what you've done. As athletes, if you really don't want to give him advice, or you're thinking, why is he sending me messages? Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, he was loving it. He replied with 3 paragraphs, giving him loads of advice, but he can put it out there to show how much he knows what he's talking about. And you kind of watch it with his YouTube channel. He just kind of says things that everyone's kind of thinking and tries to take the credit for someone's win. And, I'm not a massive fan of Henry Cejudo, not because he's cringe in the press conferences and he puts on his character, but because I think, like, I just don't really, I don't know if you can trust a guy like that in the fight game. And obviously leaking DMs is just a dirty move. No one likes that.
It's one of those things. Like if you're going to give him advice, you don't leak it, and if you do give advice, but you might leak it, just don't do it.
Yeah.
And then there's a way to go about it. Really, there would be nothing wrong with going on a podcast or an interview saying, so I spoke to Aljamain, and we spoke about what we could do because there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's just helping each other out.
Hmm.
To leak Dienzo and to especially after a loss like that, which I'd like to
An
just say,
embarrassing one.
embarrassing. He didn't look like himself,
No.
and it was very frustrating, really, because it's very good for Amali, but and to be fair, I don't think that you can disparage Amali at all because even if you look at him against Peter Yan, it
Yeah,
shows that
he's top-
that it's
top
not
level.
a fluke.
Yeah.
He is top level. He is high level. He is champion
Mm.
potential material. Well, he is champion, but overall, yeah, it's just not a nice thing to do, really.
Yeah, and
Don't do it.
another thing I want to touch on, kind of linking with the Aljamain thing, Murad Dashvili obviously dominating Peter Yan in his last fight, putting a beating on Peter Yan. Says he's prepared to wait at least a year and a half for a title shot because he doesn't want to fight his friend in Aljamain Sterling. Dana White made some comments in his recent interview and said, if you want to be like that, you should be fighting somewhere else. So, what do you think you can do with Dashvili at this point? I don't think you can let a friend hold you back from your career aspirations, especially if maybe there's a risk of not being in the UFC because of it.
So it's one of these things. In the politest way possible, you have to get over it. Really,
Hmm.
fighting your friend doesn't necessarily mean anything. You don't have to go to a press conference and
Chat loads of rubbish.
talk loads of rubbish and just be a toxic individual.
Mm.
You can be very respectful about it. We have lots of fighters who don't talk rubbish, don't badmouth each other. Fighters who get along very, very well. I know that Poirier and Gaethje get along quite well.
Yeah.
And then they fought a few times.
Mm.
And there's
Loads of friends have fought. So many training partners have fought. All sorts.
And this is the thing, it's the way you conduct yourself. If you don't have to necessarily, obviously, you're not going to be training together
Mm.
because you're training to fight each other, so you wouldn't train together. But it doesn't mean that you can't talk to each other. It doesn't mean that you can't be friends to an extent. Obviously, there you would have to close yourself off. But from the perspective of you're not you, if you're in a position where you're worried about losing friendship, like you're not going to,
Mm.
or you shouldn't anyway.
I don't
There's
think.
no reason you should, and if you do, that's on one person's behalf.
I think if it was the other way around, Aljamain Sterling would want to fight Dashvili. That's how I look at it. And I mean, if I was in this scenario, I'd be happy fighting any friend because it's money and you're chasing legacy at the end of the day. And that's why it's important. Like a lot of my coaches throughout my childhood, a lot of coaches tell you you can't really be making too many friends if you want to be a fighter because it doesn't get well. It gets you in sticky situations like this. And obviously, Dashvili, a lot of people think he's the best fighter in that division, and we might not get to see how that plays out. So,
Well, I mean, it's like being a footballer and playing for a national team, and then playing a game in a club game against one of your international teammates, and you're really good friends, but you can't say to your football coach, "Well, I don't want to play this team
I
because
would say it's
my
different
friend."
though.
No,
Fighting someone.
it is very different, but it's also similar.
Mm.
You have to compete against someone.
It's a sport at the end of the
It's a
day,
sport at the end of the day, and if somebody's saying you should be fighting somewhere else, I'd probably take that fight because you're looking at potentially getting cut.
Yeah, which no one wants. Like, at the end of the day, UFC brings the biggest promotion, brings the biggest names to the stage, and probably has the best fighters too.
And I mean, in complete fairness as well, the UFC will cut anybody.
Yeah, they are
They,
ruthless.
you don't care how big a name you are. It's not as simple as I can't do that. If you're not fighting for titles and you're being offered title shots and you're costing the promotion because of it, because that's ultimately what it does. It costs the company when you don't want to take these big fights
Yeah,
because people want to see these big fights. People pay pay-per-view money, which is very expensive to watch these fights. Then there's no need for you to be there because there's always someone else
who wants that fight?
who really wants that fight and isn't afraid to take it because they're
Definitely.
friends.
Exactly. Yeah, I think basically that's all we've got to talk about on this week's podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, share us around with your friends. Obviously, the more we grow, the more we can produce on this channel. And I feel like there's just real good energy going into this at the moment, and we'll take it up new levels soon. So just keep around. Thank you for listening to the Combat Chatters podcast.
Guys, thank you very much.